The evolution of NASCAR, Generation 1. NASCAR started with moonshiners who were souping up their cars to get away from the police, and then they started racing each other. So these cars are not far from the cars you'd see on the road in this time. They don't really have much safety features. The engines are a little souped up, but otherwise, these are just big metal bodies on stock frames. There were roll bars towards the end, but they were very, these are very similar to the stock cars that you'd be seeing driving around. Generation 2. So these cars are different from Generation 1 because now they have modified frames. So they have racing specific tube frames with a stock body sitting on top of it. So these bodies are still the same as the street cars, and they actually had to make a certain amount of cars for the road in order to legally race them in NASCAR. So those winged cars that we saw, they had to make those for people to buy so that they could legally race them in NASCAR. So you could buy a crazy looking winged Plymouth. Generation 3. So Generation 3 takes place during the gas crisis. So these NASCARs became much smaller than their predecessors, and they also are much more modified. You can see the fronts of the cars are more plastic. They're starting to become farther from their street counterparts. The end of Generation 3, they're getting front clips that the streetcars don't even have. So they're starting to become their own thing apart from American stock cars. Generation 4. So, Generation 4, you can see they've become a completely different thing from their American counterparts. They don't look like Monte Carlos. They don't look like Ford Tauruses. They're just completely separate at this point. Um, these bodies were much more focused on aerodynamics, and they were put in the wind tunnel for development. So, and also all these bodies are becoming very similar to each other. Uh, they aren't manufacturer specific. Generation 5, these are known as the car of tomorrow. They opted for a new front splitter and a rear wing. And this is a total departure from anything NASCAR's ever done before, and it didn't really work. They moved away from it towards the end of Gen 5, brought back the spoilers of normal, and they really never came back to this. And this era is kind of known as the ugly stepchild era of NASCAR. Generation 6. So they moved away from the wings and front splitters and aero package of Generation 5, and they moved back to kind of a general stock car. They have tube chassis, and they have fiberglass and metal bodies, and these are stock cars. They're very similar to Generation 4 in the way that they drive, and they also changed the sizing of the cars to match their street counterparts a little better. So these are sized to look like Mustangs, Camaros, and Toyota Camrys. Finally, we have next gen. This is just started this year, 2022. These cars are completely different from Gen 6. They have alloy wheels, one lug. They have a completely different aero package, completely different bodies, completely different drivetrains, and they're very exciting.